Howdy, hey everyone, and after the success of my previous Plants vs. Zombies video, I've decided to come back with a part 2. And I've also decided to turn this into a whole side project region, with my primary one still being Keltisha. Also, check out part 1 if you haven't, as well as join the Discord, both in the description. But one last thing, before we start, is since it's spooky month now, I might as well change for the occasion. Yeah, much better. Now, with no further ado, let's hop in. Now that I'm making this a real region, we need the starters, so let's start with, pun intended, those. And this first one will actually be, well, not a redesign, but more of a replacement. Planter was always my least favorite design from the last video. It just felt really forced, not a great look for the pea shooter Pokemon. So, Planter is no more, and I will now make a better pea shooter Pokemon. Sorry to the 3 Planter fans out there. I think the biggest part that was weird about it is that it was too faithful to the original pea shooter. So to fix it, I'll make it an actual animal instead of just the pea shooter. But what animal? Well, that strange mouth is probably the most notable part of the pea shooter, so we can probably start there. For some reason, it made me think of a bird beak. Then, I realized that the leaves could become wings, and I decided to make it a bird. Well, yes, Rowlet is also a grass-type starter bird. Both Piplup and Quaxley are birds, and no one cared. Add on the cute pea-shaped body, and I think we got an idea. So, as said, I'm starting out with probably one of my favorite body plans. Just Orb. Big head and smaller circular body. Big eyes and big cute eyes. For some reason, the eyes took me like 30 minutes. It's got a head on the back of its, a leaf on the back of its head. I can't English today. Which is supposed to mimic the leaf that the actual pea shooter has. Teeny tiny little feet in green colors, just like the pea shooter has. And it has a big hole in front of its beak. Here is Plantiquite from Plant and Parakeet, a pure grass type. These Pokemon are very loyal and even more intelligent. When they eat fruit and berries, they store the seeds in their beak to shoot back at predators later. With some training, it's possible to teach them human speech. Next, a highly requested plant from the last video was the Sunflower. Last time I swept it aside, saying that it would be too similar to Sunflora. But the more I thought about it, and its function in-game, the more I felt an idea forming. So the Sunflower collects and stores sun energy, much like a solar panel. Then I thought that lizards like sitting out in the sun, which also relates them back to a solar panel. So we'll make a solar panel lizard / sunflower. Yeah, it has a very similar concept to Helioptile, but also, shut up. Now, the Sunflower is going to be like the original Planter, very faithful. It's going to have a very similar silhouette, but the concept is much more different. It's going to have actual limbs instead of leaves, with hands pointing out so that it looks like the leaves at the base of the plant. It also has a long tail that kind of looks like a secondary stem. Kind of. It has these black pads on its petals and hands and chest that mimic the solar panels that I mentioned earlier. The green is actually the original, but I turned that into the shiny. Here's Frizzle, from Frills, Fizzle, and Soul, meaning sun, a pure fire type. These Pokemon are incredibly active and jovial. They can absorb sunlight through the black spots on their frills, allowing them to go weeks without eating. They can also expel this stored sunlight through the black spots, unleashing powerful fire attacks. And now to round off the starter types, Water. I don't know about you lot, but for me it's obvious. There already isn't a lot of aquatic plants, and out of all of them, this sea shroom is the only one with a starter material. First, it has a really cute face, and second, it's already an animal! Well, not really, but it has a lot of octopus and squid-like elements. I mean, sea shroom almost already looks like a starter. This just makes my job easy. Also, I want to say that a water-type mushroom Pokemon makes a lot of sense. After all, mushrooms thrive in moist environments. That's why if you overwater your lawn, mushrooms might pop up. Thanks to my dad for teaching me that. So for this, I'm basically just drawing the sea shroom. The only thing that really changes is the color slightly, the shape of the mushroom slightly, and the mouth. It still has big lips, so it kind of has that element. But really, it's just like standing up and out of the water. And yeah, it's a big smiling mouth instead of the weird mouth the pea shooter has. More, like I said, aquatic bluish colors instead of the green of the original sea shroom. Here is Musquid from Mushroom and Squid, a pure water type. These Pokemon are extremely playful. They have been known to approach people and blow bubbles with them. The mushroom on its head is particularly springy. Mushroom can be found in lakes and rivers, but all seem to have the innate desire to visit the ocean. Now that the starters are done, let's move on to some more regular Pokemon. So another iconic PvZ plant from the original game is the Chomper. It's basically the man-eating plant trope, think Little Shop of Horrors, but I love this interpretation of said trope. It doesn't have any eyes, but it makes up for it with its huge mouth, and the colors just pop. Believe it or not, Chomper loves to eat. It instantly kills any zombie, but it has to chew them before they can eat another. So basically, it's just a worse squash. For the Fakemon interpretation, I wanted to take a page out of Guzzlord's book, another Pokemon that loves to eat, and heavens forbid I go a single video without mentioning an Ultra Beast. But, like Guzzlord, its whole design revolves around eating. It will also take inspiration from snakes, who famously swallow prey whole. Just a huge eating thing. Gross! So, like I said, this is probably going to be the one that changes the most out of any plant. The original Chomper is basically just like an orb with a mouth on a stem. This is just getting a whole body, because just making a head with a stem is really boring. So I wanted it to feel huge, like it could eat you. Just cold. Like I said, it'll have a lot of snake elements. It's gonna have a big old fat slithery body, but it's also gonna have arms so it can claw its way around. Dark colors, because this is gonna be a dark type. Here is Glotobble, the Chomper Pokemon from Glutton and Gobble, a pure dark type. This Pokemon uses its large body to barrel through anything that gets in its way of eating. Its stomach can stretch up to 30 times its original size when eating. It has no eyes, so it gets around by smelling. And finally, in the spirit of the spooky season, I'll make an appropriately spooky Pokemon for a really spooky plant. The Gravebuster is one of the few plants that get a major redesign overhaul from 1 and 2, and a lot of people didn't like it. So the head will be PV's on 1 iteration, while the body will be like the sequels. And since eating, or rather busting graves, is kind of like eating people, and we already had a man-eating plant today, so why not make it a vampire? That's also spooky. The vines will be, on the second version, will make up the cape, so very spooky. So the head is basically just going to be the PVZ 1 iteration, like that's it, but at least the body will be more original. It'll have cape like designs and thorns, so that it also kind of looks like the vampire squid. Yes, I know we already had a squid today, but like, shut up. Also, you'll see once I get to the coloring, but I did something a lot like what I did for Frizzle, the sunflower one. I made the original design into the shiny, and the shiny into the original. So here is Gravine from Grave and Vine, a ghost rock type. These Pokemon have been known to eat both stones and bodies of the dead. The Dark Skull is the only bone this Pokemon has. Its mouth is in between tentacles, and it is feared across many towns and villages. And that is it for today. The only thing that the PVZ region needs now is a name. So why not give me some suggestions in the comments? And don't worry, the next video will be even spookier for Spooky Month than this one is. But for now, that's it from me. See ya, and stay safe.